Hey, I'm just glad Bunny's back. I have the biggest crush on her. Like, she is like made in the Earl manufacturing plant. Like, blonde, big tits, cute face. Like, is she married to anyone? I always say this. And, that's so-and-so's husband.
I think she's with the Blade.
Okay, never mind that.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the very first episode of Outside Interference. I'm the RRBG Eddy Torres, and with me, to my right, the Inappropriate One, Earl Skakel. How are you, brother?
And my trusty sidekick, Lois.
Lois is here as well.
She never leaves my side. I'm good. It's happy to be a correspondent on the maiden voyage of... What is the name of this?
Outside Interference.
Right, that's right. He told me. I just woke up, so I'm not going to lie to you.
I'm glad to have you here, man. I miss you. I miss seeing you every week. I figured we'd start the show by saying our final goodbyes to the show that was Comedy Store Wrestling. It was a good year. We had a good run.
Yeah, it's one of those things where... It's kind of like when I was on the TV show I'm Dying Up Here. You just wonder why it wasn't more successful. But it is a crowded market, the wrestling podcast field. And, I think our inability to do Zooms hurt us.
Yeah, that is one thing.
If you look at the Bischoff episode, which I think was our only Zoom.
Yeah, it was our only Zoom.
It literally did 10 times the number of a regular podcast.
Yeah.
So... But, we gave it a good shot. You definitely can't say we did not give it an effort.
Oh, hell yeah. No, we had some great guests, and, we built up to basically a crescendo, collaborating with the WWE, having our own merch with them for WrestleMania weekend, having, their talent on the show. And it was, I think we did everything we could, and I think it comes down more to just personal preferences of the new regime over there. Not trying to get any heat with anyone. But, they're just not wrestling fans. I get it and understand. I think for a year, we built a pretty solid foundation, considering I've been doing podcasting for 7 years, and it wasn't until year 3 where shit started popping off. So we did a lot in a year, I think.
I mean, I watch every episode of AEW, and we've had that person on, we've had that person on. We've had, some pretty big guests, but... when you're competing with, say, 83 weeks, with Bischoff and Conrad, and they're getting, Ric Flair and now Theo, and even Rogan now is having wrestling.
That's right. Yeah.
I think he had Hogan on recently.
All the shit that Rogan talked about wrestling, and here he is having wrestlers on.
But I mean, that's who we're up against. Yeah. So hopefully bigger and better things for. You and I'll be popping in from time to time. I
appreciate that. Yeah, Earl unfortunately won't be a weekly staple as he used to be, but whenever you want to come in talk AEW, he'll be here, which is what we're going to do today. I also do want to start off. We're going to talk all AEW, but you and I haven't been in the same room talking wrestling since this happened, and it really, really affected me. So I want to bring it up real quick. But rest in peace to Bray Wyatt, who was, Wyndham Rotunda, was a very important figure to me as a professional wrestling fan. The message, what he represented was my type of people, which is why I connected with him so strongly. And his passing actually affected me more than any wrestler. It even affected me more than some friends that I've lost, because it wasn't really necessarily a matter of, like my wife told me, she's like, you didn't know him. Why are you so beat up about this? And it's like, it's not just about him. It's about his family. It's about his friends. It's about all the people that I know that know him. It's about the message of what he represented and all of the fans that are now left without that. So it really fucked me up. I'm better now, but for like a good week, I was just not in a good place. So I needed to bring it up and give, rest in power to Mr. Bray Wyatt. I know you met him at the store.
Yeah, I recently met him. Maybe was that 3 or 4 months ago, and You know, I've done comedy for like 23 years, so I don't get really nervous anymore. You know, I get excited, but I don't walk into any set going, oh my God, can I do this? And when I was about to go on one night in the OR, which is the smaller room at the Comedy Store, Bray Wyatt walked in, and he sat in Mitzi's seat. And I've never been so nervous in my life. Like, I literally was having a panic attack because I didn't want to bomb in front of him. Yeah. And so there is pretty full room, too, so I just started doing jokes about his dad and how I thought he was an IRS agent that the WWE hired to keep track of the wrestlers' finances. And he was bowling over laughing. No one else was laughing at all. And I didn't care. Like, there's 200 people in the room, and there's one guy, gigantic man in the back, laughing. And afterwards, we took him into Mitzi's office, which is beyond the sacred ground. I had never even been in Mitzi's office up until that point. And here I am with Bray Wyatt, and he's like a little kid. Like, he's like, oh, my God, is that Argus's script he sold to Mitzi? And, like, he knew everything. Like, is that Tom Dreesen's, whatever jacket that he wore on The Tonight Show? And then we talked for about an hour upstairs on the roof, which is another area that nobody gets allowed to be up. It's the
I've
roof.
never been there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really very few comics are allowed up there, and we just talked for an hour, a little bit about wrestling, and of course I asked him if he was ever going to go to AEW, and all I'll say he said was, "Don't bring up Tony Khan." But he said it in such a nice way where it wasn't like a dicky way at all. And then, when we took a picture, he was breathing pretty heavy. And so, that was probably a sign of maybe he wasn't in the greatest health. But you couldn't tell. Like, he was, we took a picture and it didn't come out right. He's like, well, let's go over here and take it. Like, he was like most people would have just taken the picture and get out of here, dude. Yeah. He was just incredibly nice, and his fiance or wife, JoJo? Wife. She was just as nice. And, it's a night I'll never forget. There's many memorable nights at the Comedy Store. That's the top 5 for me.
Awesome, man. Well, again, rest in power, Mr. Wyndham Rotunda. Definitely missed. Dude, we've only been gone from Comedy Store Wrestling for, a month?
Yeah.
It's only been like a month, and there's been so much shit that has happened. So much shit. And we're only going to cover lightly over some of the stuff, but it's all going to be AEW stuff for today, for Earl's sake. But I'm going to start at the very top with All In. AEW put on All In, which is their biggest show to date. Apparently, according to them, the biggest show in professional wrestling history. I don't know how accurate that is, but maybe it is. I'll just take them at their word with the ticket sales and whatnot. But it was a good night. It was a pretty big wrestling event. The crowd really made it for me.
Oh, I think they definitely proved that they can put on a WrestleMania type event. I did see a few clusters of empty seats, but that could have been people ordered the seats and they just didn't show up. So if it was 81,000 seats, it is the biggest crowd ever to see a wrestling show. I thought the pyrotechnics were good, not great. I mean, they're still lagging behind in production. Yeah. And that's they're going to be compared to WWE in everything they do. So they're still lacking in that the show element of it. But it was very, very few negative things to say about the card overall. I mean, Mercedes Moné I thought was a nice
appearance.
The tease, I did like the tease, although I would have had her, not knowing what her injury is still, you want ultimate heel heat. As Soraya's holding out the belt, I would have had her come from behind and hit her. Or do something, a face-off.
Yeah, face-off would be fine.
But maybe she still can't. I don't think you'd want to show her on TV limping, so, not knowing the extent, maybe they couldn't do that. But not many negatives, to be honest with you. I mean, the only negative I would say is typical of AEW pay-per-views, with the exception of Cole and MJF, there really wasn't. Pay-per-views are used to either start, continue, or finish feuds, a storyline, and there really wasn't much of that. So I think it's a missed opportunity to either start one or...
Also, no real like surprises. Nothing big, no big surprises.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for sure you'd either see Goldberg or Wardlow or both. Perfect opportunity. Maybe they tried to get something together, and I'm still blown away at the mishandling of Wardlow 2 times. But this was the perfect instant heat or face pop for him. So I do think it was a mixed or a lost opportunity, and Goldberg was the perfect. You didn't even have to have him wrestle; just show up, maybe interfere, start a little baby feud. I don't know with Sting. I don't want to see that, but like anything would have been good. But all in all, it was worth the $50. I paid for it.
I paid for it too, Earl. Can you believe it?
I can't believe you couldn't find a Russian website.
No, I found the streams. I found the illegal streams, but I still felt like, you know what? This is technically the biggest event that they're putting on. Let me support. Let me show some love, I guess.
I mean, I do find that now that we're friends with some of them, I don't want to. I want to pay, and not that.
Yeah, you got to support your homies.
Not that Big Bill is gonna care if he gets 40-cent cut of my. But it is a little different when you actually know the people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what was my match of the night? I think for All In was FTR versus the Bucks. I think that was the top-notch match. Outside of maybe a close second with MJF versus Adam Cole, which was a work of art, I think. What was your favorite match of the night?
I liked United Empire with MJF and Cole. I thought
to start the show at the 0 hour.
I love those guys. I've been a fan of theirs since they've been Ospreay's henchmen. And I'm new to New Japan, so I didn't quite know who they were a year ago. But I'm big fans of theirs. I see Davis as like a new era of Arn Anderson, just a big guy and he even does Arn's move. And I love Fletcher. He's I think a future star. I mean,
Fletcher's like a younger Ospreay, I think.
Yeah, I could see them going at it at some point. And then outside of that, MJF and Cole was a great storytelling. I was a little disappointed with Omega. It's crazy to me he's lost on multiple pay-per-views. I don't know.
I think it's punishment for this whole thing with Punk.
I mean, I can't imagine you just signed him for another 4 years, and so far he's lost, I think, on 2 or 3 straight pay-per-views. That makes no sense to me. Like, he's your biggest star, arguably internationally. MJF might be bigger in America, but Omega's your top star internationally anyway. Unless it's part of an angle where all of a sudden he's on a losing streak and he turns into evil Omega, that's something we don't know, but that bugs me because they're kind of devaluing him.
Yeah. What did you think of Ospreay Jericho?
I thought it was great. I mean, Jericho can still go, and he's at the point now where he's like Triple H was toward the end, where win or lose, it doesn't matter. He's still Jericho.
Yeah,
he'll still walk out. People sing the song. I mean, Ospreay, I can't imagine him ever having a bad match. I mean, he is in his prime right now, so I think it's important to showcase him. I think his New Japan contract is up in 3 months, 2 months, something
pretty
like that.
shortly here, yeah.
So I hope that means he's at least in AEW a bit more, and because I see United Empire's wrestling a lot more in AEW.
Yeah. Well, they're signed. They're all elite now.
Oh, okay. See,
Empire,
but I don't know if that means
Aussie Open is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I hope Ospreay is, because he's a star. He is just great on the mic, amazing in the ring, and I think you got to take advantage of him being in his physical prime, because like Omega, that style will catch up with him.
Oh, absolutely.
And Jericho's great at putting guys over. He didn't have to lose to who's that young kid he lost to a couple months ago?
Action
Andretti. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's like, yeah, let me do it. But that was a typical match for that card. It's like it seemed like it was just thrown together in 2 weeks, so there wasn't really a build. You didn't really care who won or lost. which I think is a huge problem in AEW. We talked about this 7 months ago.
Yeah.
You don't care who wins or loses.
Yeah, to me, I think that match was more of just like, hey, look, Ospreay needs a big moment in his hometown. Ospreay probably asked for this to face Jericho because he's a legend. I want to face Jericho in my hometown. Like, even if there's no story attached to it, it's like a feather in the cap for his career, you know. And he got a good babyface pop. Props to Jericho for not botching the entrance song. They did a good job. They cut it out. Like, they didn't have the band playing for an extended amount of time. Like, it was, I think, well put together.
I didn't like I loved how Ospreay came in. I think it was 2 Dynamites before the pay-per-view where you didn't really expect it, and he came in and he beat up Jericho. Although I would have had, and Bully Ray made this point, but I would have said it anyway, where they were holding Jericho and Don Callis hit him over the head with the painting. The painting.
Yeah.
I would have had Ospreay do it. Because then he's directly responsible for the damage.
Right.
Because the way they did it, Ospreay just seemed like a flunky to Don Callis, and like he's too good to be a flunky to anybody. And when they did the signing the week before or the week of that Dynamite, I don't know. It just seemed like Ospreay was kind of faking the anger, like.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he's not actually mad or.
But, you know, against Omega, it seems like they actually don't like each other.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're friends, so they do a good job of faking it. But it's just like he can't be this angry. Like, Jericho's done nothing to him yet.
Yeah.
So, but very good match. I mean, I'd give it, on the Meltzer scale, at least a 4.
4 Meltzers from Earl.
4 Meltzers from Skakel.
Some other honorable mention stuff from All In. I think it's All In. It became kind of a blur because they decided to book 2 fucking pay-per-views within a week with All In and then All Out. They should not do that moving forward. So I don't know if this is particularly from All In or All Out, but during that week, I wanted to mention Bullet Club Gold is doing great. I think I love what the Guns are doing with Jay White and Juice. Juice still looks like the Honeycombs mascot, so I'm gonna. I'm having a hard time taking him seriously, but I don't think you're supposed to take him seriously. The whole cardboard cutout of Jay White was hilarious. So I think they're a mix of like badasses, but with a little comedy in there, you know?
I mean, I was against having the Guns pair up with them because I thought, that's 4 guys. It's just too much, not enough camera time. But it's oddly working. Like, Austin Gunn's selling is nothing short of Mr. Perfect level, the way he does it.
Over the top crazy.
Just he's like, looks like he got shot by Lee Harvey Oswald on every move. And I'm a huge Jay White fan. I think he should be more singles than with he's just so good. And now with Ospreay coming over and Omega, they have beef from New Japan. I'd like to see singles matches between any combo of those 3. And Juice is like one of my new favorites. Like, he just really works the crowd, and he's almost on like that Rick Rude level of he's a heel, but people love him, which is great because you get the best of both worlds. And Colton Gunn's great too. He's really developing. I wish I didn't know him because he's such a nice guy. It's hard to buy in that he's a dick.
Yeah.
Because I saw him like giving little kids autographs at the Ric Flair roast and like, literally getting on his knees because there was a child in a wheelchair, and like I can't get those images out of my brain.
Yeah. I mean, but that happens everywhere. I mean, look at Austin Theory's going around in hospitals and like giving belts and doing heartwarming shit, and he's supposed to be the biggest douche in WWE. So
that's why it's almost like it's a curse to meet these guys, especially the heels.
Yeah, he loses the magic.
Yeah.
Other things, the Acclaimed beat House of Black, took the trios titles from those guys with Daddy Ass or whatever, Badass Billy Gunn. And now they have, did you see the Acclaimed's new custom belts with the scissors?
I did. I'm a House of Black guy, but I don't know. The Acclaimed, it's getting a little old for me.
Yeah.
But, they're very popular. I mean, I think they're probably second to Danhausen in terms of merch, so I get it.
I still see that they were on the top when they were the tag champs. They were on top in terms of popularity, and I feel like there has been a dip since that.
Well, I mean, it's very one note. It's the rap in the beginning, and then
Scissoring.
and then I think they need good opponents. Like House of Black's a great opponent because they're so opposite.
Yeah.
But I don't see a lot of other House of Blacks. I think the Acclaim, they need like an opposite, like dark, brooding. I don't know who is another trios. I mean, Republic of Lucha. I know sometimes they throw in like Vikingo with them, and I mean that could be pretty good under the right circumstances. But
it's the Lucha Bros. You keep saying Republic of Lucha.
Well, that's their store,
that's
right?
Their store.
Well, I'm just trying to do a plug for their store in Pasadena. Go to the burger joint next door too. So I don't know. I mean, it's funny, but I hope either. It still blows me away that Billy Gunn's kids. They don't even acknowledge that those are his actual children.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping down the road maybe there's something with those guys or something.
Yeah. And then another thing, I think this was at All In, the return of Santana and Ortiz, which got everybody stoked. They're like, oh, cool, they're back. They're on the same page. But then on the internets, they're beefing pretty publicly. So they're not back. They might be back to wrestling, but not together. They'll be doing single shit, I think, moving forward.
This was the big return, I guess.
That was the surprise. But
it fell a little flat to me. I mean,
yeah.
When you have an 81,000 seat venue, you got to generate buzz. I don't think Santana Ortiz returning is going to do it. But it was a good match. I mean, I liked but it's the same problem with that match. What do you call it? The in-stadium brawl.
Stadium Stampede.
It's just too much going on, I think, for the camera people to cover everything. And I noticed several times they missed some things, and because it's a cluster, So I don't like those, but it was good. I mean,
it was a fun match, but yeah, like you're saying, it's a lot for the camera guys, and they miss a bunch of the spots. But, it's even worse for the fans in attendance. They don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, you don't know where to look.
Yeah, there's people inside, all right, well, I guess I'm not seeing the rest of that,
I did laugh when the mom drove the van out. I mean, that was pretty funny.
With a tray of cookies or whatever, biscuits.
But, they're, like we said, their production value is still behind WWE. And I think WWE could do one of those stadium brawl things because they're just better at the
production,
technical aspects of catching stuff like that. But it was fun.
Yeah. And then All Out, we had Orange Cassidy, who has been touting the run of a lifetime, has been defending the belt almost weekly on television. Finally dropped the belt to Mox. I don't think Mox needed that belt, but maybe the mentality behind it was to continue the value of the belt by having a big star like Mox hold it. I would have given that belt to someone else, but I like Mox, I guess, so whatever. What are your thoughts?
I thought Orange winning was it get a little stale, so I think he's great, by the way. I love watching him, and I'm glad they gave him the shine of being one of the longer title holders in company history. But I think it was time for a change, and maybe he can get it back down the road. I mean, Moxley's just a little one note for my taste, but he's great. I mean, you could tell he loves wrestling.
Who do you think? Who if you were booking the title transfer, who would you have take the belt from him? Not from Mox, from Orange.
Someone who needs the rub, maybe a Miro or Powerhouse Hobbs. I mean, that would have been cool to see Miro win it, maybe with outside interference from Lana.
Well, we kind of got that at All Out with Hobbs versus Miro, the meat match.
What's her AEW name?
It's her real name, CJ Perry. That's her shoot name.
I did like that. I mean, that was because I didn't see that in any of the dirt sheets, and I think she's good. She was a very good manager.
Did you see what she changed her Twitter name to?
No.
So the angle now is Miro is rejecting her.
Right.
So she changed her Twitter handle to Meat Lover.
See, that's another thing where we met them at that wrestling show, and they were saying, "Hey, can we come to the Comedy Store?" So it's like hard for me to like separate that.
Yeah.
If they come to the Comedy
CJ came to the store not too long before the whole thing. Like she was there with some friends.
And she looks great, by the way. Like she's a very beautiful woman. So I could see her playing the evil bitch.
Hot and flexible is I believe what they call her. What Miro calls her, hot and flexible wife.
I'm not going to even get into that because Miro could kill me. So, but
it seems like the angle they're going with right now is Miro Hobbs, and then like her going with. They're replaying that Bobby Lashley angle from WWE where she's going to end up marrying Hobbs or something on TV.
I mean, AEW has not done a wedding angle yet, so. I almost don't want to.
They did one. I think Miro was involved, wasn't it? Kip Sabian and his girl got married, and Miro was a part of it. But it wasn't like the way that WWE does it. But there was some kind of wedding.
Oh,
angle.
see, I don't remember. That's how.
That was in the beginning times when Miro was still. What was it they called him? The best man. That was his whole angle. Like,
oh, okay. I don't
Miro,
even
the
remember
best
that.
man. Yeah, he had blonde hair. It was weird. That was a weird time.
Hey, I'm just glad Bunny's back. I have the biggest crush on her. Like, she is like made in the Earl manufacturing plant. Like, blonde, big tits, cute face. Like, is she married to anyone? I always say this. And, that's so and so's husband.
I think she's with the Blade.
Okay, never mind that.
I think that's his girl.
I mean
could
that
be wrong.
respectfully, Mr. Blade.
Yeah. I could be wrong. I don't know. And then other things from All Out, Takeshita versus Omega. I mean, Takeshita and Don Callis is a good pairing. I think it's good that Don Callis has moved on from Omega onto mentoring Takeshita because I think Takeshita needs a mouthpiece, and I think Omega's already a star. He doesn't need Don Callis.
Well, once again, I met Takeshita at the Ric Flair roast, and he was so nice and humble. Like, I think I said, "Hey, I saw you at PWG. I think he wrestled Daniel Garcia, and it was like an amazing match." And he was just so like, "Oh, thank you." And so it's hard for me to believe that he's some evil heel. I loved the match. I mean, those guys are great, but the finish seemed a little fast. Like they were either out of time and they. Got in the ref's earpiece and said, "Hey, pin him now," because the pin came out of nowhere. So I love the match. I didn't like the finish.
Okay. One more thing, Jericho lost his crew. The JAS is no more. Him going, I guess, like still having I think he's facing off against Sammy, even though Sammy had his back and all this stuff. But I think it was a good call to cancel the JAS. I think that's done too. It's gotten long in the teeth,
But I love those guys. It is long in the tooth, and I think everyone in that crew, I think should, with Collision, hopefully maybe Jack Swagger or Jake Hager. He'll always be Jack Swagger to me. The fans like him. Anytime he's out there, they start chanting, "Where's the hat?" And I'm not saying he should be a star for AEW, but there's value in him. Like the fans like him, and Cool Ange, and who's the other guy?
Magic Daddy Mike or something like that.
Daddy Magic.
Daddy Magic.
They're funny. Like they could be used, I think, better. Maybe. I mean, they're both good wrestlers, but I don't know if there's an angle for them that I can think of at the moment. But I hope this means they get a little more TV time because they're. Daddy Magic's in the DraftKings commercials, like but Jake Hager's like a legit D1, undefeated for a very long time wrestler. So I'd like to see him. Unfortunately for him, he's probably in that high level jobber category.
Yeah, he needs a mouthpiece too because he's got that lisp that some people can't take seriously.
But but it's almost funny that he does because here's this hulking dude, great looking guy. I mean, for a wrestler, he's good looking. I could see him and Callis, or a Callis like person benefiting him. Maybe the angle is he's sick of jobbing and he still loses and loses. There's something there with him because if you notice next time watch, when he comes out, even when it's with the group, and Daniel Garcia's in that group as well, like Hager gets the most attention from the crowd. So, maybe he'd be a good opponent for Miro or Hobbs or both. And
he got a fucking purple hat over. I think he's got something there.
It's funny though, like the crowd is people forget angles all the time, but because it's so stupid that he just was obsessed with his Barney hat. Like here you have this guy in his 30s. I just think there's something there with him. That's where Tony Khan would benefit with a writer. Like go, hey, because Tony Khan probably doesn't even realize, hey, the crowd likes him. Like let's do something with him. I'm not saying make him champion, but
well, they have been bringing in more producers now. I think he's definitely loosening up in terms of that vice grip on creative. So we're gonna see some changes.
I would like, and all those guys, Cool Ange when he does the hair thing.
They won me over. Those two guys won me over because they were in NXT as 2.0 or something. I forget what they were called. I think it was 2.0, and I hated them. I thought they were bland as fuck. They looked like generic versions of the Hardys But now here with what they've done, they've completely turned me around. I'm a fan.
Well, you bring up the Hardys, and I don't know. I don't read your
my notes
breakdowns because I want it to be organic. But someone floated out that, and it could be at AEW in November at the Forum. There's enough time for this to build a ladder match with the Hardys, the Dudleys, which they just signed a WWE Legends contract. So that might not be. I don't know how that works. Like if they're beholden to the WWE now, but I think we all know who's coming in. An old partner of Christian's. That would be amazing. Even though like they're all older, but the Marks and all of us would love to see basically a redo of the ladders match between those three.
That would be amazing. Before this announcement of the Legends contract, I was 100% convinced that this was going to happen. I was like, there's got to be the Hardys versus Edge and Christian versus the Dudleys in AEW. At the very least, we'll probably get Edge and Christian versus the Hardys at some point in a ladders match or some kind of match. But that's exciting. I mean, that's a good place for him to go, I think.
Well, I mean, yeah, it goes back to when we were talking about Bray Wyatt. Like, it would have been perfect. The travel's like 70% less.
Yeah.
Even with Collision added, it's 3 shows a week, but 2 are taped on the same night. I'm assuming Edge would not, or when we were talking about Bray Wyatt, he's not going to be on Rampage. So and this is before Collision, really. So, but with Edge, I'm sure the TNA like travel schedule is of interest to him, and him and Christian are best friends in real life.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I don't think Christian was ever going to go back to WWE. I think he's happy in AEW. I mean, it's some of his promos about the dead dads I could do without.
Dude, I mean, he's even doing it at press conferences. Like, he sat down next to Tony Khan, was like, how's everybody's dad?
I watched that. Like, that's one of the. He's great still on the mic. Like, and he's very good in the ring. He took a picture of him without a shirt on. Like, he's got to be in his late 40s, early 50s. Mm-hmm. I mean, is he 50 yet?
I think so.
He's jacked, man. So Edge is really the last person that I think you could, even though everyone knows he's coming. This is like when Warrior was coming to WCW. Everyone knew, but that's going to be a big pop. Like,
I think so.
If they do it right, which with AEW, some of their things are not done correctly in terms of the big surprises.
They botch most of the big surprises.
I mean, well, this is it. Like, I can't think of another. I mean, you could argue Goldberg coming would be a big pop. But Edge is really the last guy you can take from WWE, and because they're not going to get Cena, they're not going to get Austin Theory, LA Knight. None of those guys are coming. Orton.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see maybe Orton in a few years, but at that point,
Orton may not ever come back to wrestling, dude. His back shit was pretty serious, apparently.
Yeah, so, unless you had him, like, in a Sting type role where you're just doing funny spots. So Edge, I mean, they got one last chance to, like, do it right in terms of a return.
Yep. Now, to get to the part which I know for a fact that the people watching this at home are waiting for this because they know of my beef. And I've been pushing it because I know our buddy JB in the back there is a big fan, so I don't want to.
Yeah.
He just did the thing. CM Punk got fired. It makes me so happy. I had to say it out loud.
Bitch.
Look, man, I talk a lot of shit about CM Punk on this show or on the previous version of this show. And, 80% of it is me joking around just to pop people, to give him some heat. I don't like him. That's a fact. Him getting fired made me laugh, and it also made me kind of like, it's not a good look, man, not for anyone. It's not a good situation. I didn't want him to get fired. I just wanted him to go away. Nobody was there to, that from us. I'm sure there's people there. We weren't there to see the situation firsthand. But I've heard all the sides of the story. I've heard anywhere from physical attacks to monitors falling to Tony Khan fearing for his life to, just all of our friends that have worked with him that don't like him. I've just heard way too much shit. And whether you think he is in the right or the wrong in terms of his, mindset about working with kids and blah, 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 and all, and everything soft and this, that, and the other. End of the day, if you are this mature, older character in the locker room, you want the respect of the youngins. Why are you popping off at the lid like that? You're supposed to be better than that. You're supposed to just, air your differences, discuss it, but blowing up and pushing people and choking them and like, I get it. Wrestling is a physical sport, but like you're not doing yourself any favors. You got fired. Now nobody wants to work with you. Maybe there's a chance that this is all just a work, and I would pop for that. If CM Punk were to show up in AEW or WWE at this point, I would probably pop like, what the fuck? And hopefully it was all a work because it's an ugly part of the business. But just going off of what I saw and heard from friends that work there with him and everything else, this was the best option because you can't have somebody popping off like that. And I don't know if he's on medication. I know he's sober and straight edge and all that stuff, so maybe he needs medication so he's not popping off like that. But whether you like him or not, you have to agree that is bad behavior anywhere. What other job could you show up and talk shit about your job while sitting next to your boss? Never. You would get fired on the spot. If I were Tony Khan during that first brawl out, I would have just immediately grabbed him, like, get the fuck out of the table. We'll talk after this. But no, Tony Khan took it, and look at where we are now. What did you think about the whole CM Punk situation?
Well, you've had him now have fights with Hangman Page, who I've never heard a bad word about, the Elite. Now, you hear certain rumors that they're a little power hungry behind the scenes. But, I'll guess a little bit of that is true. But I've never heard Kenny Omega's a bad guy. By all accounts, he's a pretty nice guy. The Bucks, you hear like they're a little cocky, but when you're as successful as they've been for a very long time, you started literally doing backyard wrestling. You're allowed to be a little cocky. Ryan Nemeth, he's had problems with, and we all know Ryan is like the nicest guy on earth. And now Jack Perry, who I've never heard a bad word about. So, when there's one common factor in all those guys having beefs, and it's CM Punk, I'll lean on their side and not his. Could Jack Perry have done it a little differently, in terms of his comment on a live pay-per-view? Probably. He deserves some blame. But, I don't think Punk's response was, at some point it's on him. Yeah. Like, hey, dude, you're out of control a little bit. I do think I haven't heard anyone come up with this angle yet, is there's a major missed opportunity by Tony Khan. And he gets a lot of shit, but he does put his own cash on the line. He's got doing 3 shows. It's all on him. I'll give him this. I thought it was balls that he went out in Chicago and announced the firing. into a live crowd. But I think the missed opportunity was he's a fan just like us. I've said it many times. He's a fan with money. And I don't think Vince McMahon is a good actor, in part because he's not acting. You get the feeling that he's a dick behind the scenes. This was Tony Khan's opportunity to at least steal a little bit of that Mr. McMahon, the authority figure. If he walked out in a CM Punk shirt, ripped it off, obviously they'd have to help him because he doesn't strike me as the type that's going to rip off T-shirts.
Yeah.
Go, CM Punk, you're fired. He could have, and it would not have been a long program, but he could have been the heel owner.
Yeah.
I thought that was the biggest botch, is that crowd would have rioted if you did that.
Yeah.
And it would have been that water cooler moment the next day. Did you see Tony Khan? He came out in a CM Punk shirt. The music hit first. Like, that's once again where he needed a William Regal or a Vince Russo, a Bischoff, anyone. This is what you should do.
Yeah, that would have been huge. On the other side of the coin, like I would have, if I tried to be objective and put myself in Punk's shoes, and if Perry is on screen saying "Cry Me a River," which wasn't even that harsh, bro, for fuck's sake, you said worse about Paige in front of a live audience. I would have just been like, oh, okay. Hey, Khan, give me a match with Perry. I'll do a match with Perry tomorrow. They put him in the ring and let him go hard. Let him stiff him. Let him give him receipts. Let him smarten that kid up in the ring where it should be done. Not in the fucking gorilla position and threatening people's lives. Like, that's childish behavior, man. Like, I would have just turned it into an angle. Like, oh, okay, Perry, you want to go? Let's fucking go. Break him open hard way in the ring. I don't know. It was mishandled overall.
I mean, I think, though, given the Elite Brawl last year, like, the guy's toxic. I mean, I've spoken without naming names to many of our mutual, and I think I'm friends with some guys you aren't, and vice versa. They've all said the same thing about the guy. He's a dick. Yeah. And most of these guys, if not all of them, they're not the type to say that.
Yeah, and they're not like, we're not talking about young kids that are green. I've talked to some legends of the sport that say the same thing.
I mean, I do appreciate, someone came up to me the other day at the Comedy Store, and they're like, yeah, we missed the podcast, but you know what? You're kind of like CM Punk of comedy. You're a 1%er. So I like that CM Punk speaks his mind. I mean, he's certainly earned that right to call out people, and by all accounts, he choked Jack Barry out. So, even though he was a bad MMA fighter, I'll give him this: his 2 UFC fights were not against stiffs. Like Mickey Gall was a legit prospect, and I forget the other guy he fought at the moment, but so he probably has a certain sense of confidence walking back there. Like, hey, we might be doing fake wrestling, but I can kick most of your asses. So I think anytime you walk into a room and you're the toughest guy in the room, you have a bit more confidence. He might not be able to take out Miro, but there's not like, I'm a lot older than you, but there's many incidents of, would you think the Ultimate Warrior would be a tough guy?
I mean, he's
just based on his body.
Just based on his body, sure, yeah.
But there's many reports that Rick Rude once kicked his ass in a legit fight, that some young wrestler was bragging about how he was a legit wrestler, and I think it was Vader or Rude got him, and they were in what's the position where you get on all fours in college wrestling, and basically the other guy gets to do whatever they want with you. They got in that position, and they flipped the guy in like 2 seconds. So I think, Punk probably he probably doesn't fear many people back there physically. Maybe outside of, I don't know who else is probably no one's a legit MMA guy. I mean, Punk is legit. He trained with Duke Rufus.
Here's my counter to that. Not counter, but just my point on what you're saying. I hang out with Josh Barnett a lot. And in most rooms, I would say 99% of the rooms, Josh is the one guy in that room that could kill everyone in there without breaking a sweat. The guy is a murderer if given the right. And he doesn't walk around with that fucking attitude. You know what I mean? Like, he knows that he can kill everybody in the room, so he has this kind of like calmness to him. And that's what I want from Punk. If you really think you're legitimately deserving of respect and deserving of like your title and you can beat up the people in the room, you don't act out like that. That's not cool, man. Like, you should just be the bigger man in the situation. Ask Tony Khan, give me Perry in a match and watch me kick his ass. That's how you handle that.
I mean, it's definitely a way you could handle it. I mean, I think, his options are fairly limited, though. Like, when you look at his future, he either comes back to AEW, which I don't think you can at this point, unless it's next year in London, where he's disappeared for a year. The week before on Dynamite, he calls out Jack Perry. People would be into that match.
Sure.
And we forgot Cole Cabana. He has a problem with.
Cole Cabana, yeah.
Another guy I've never heard of outside of how he runs Pro Wrestling Tees.
Outside of the heat you have with him.
Well, I mean, this was a nice shirt. I mean, Bruv is correctly centered. It's pretty hard to.
Any holes?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I think that if he went back to WWE, I think the first promo would be a ratings bonanza. Like, he's going to rip into Tony Khan. And, they've been pretty respectful towards each other, WWE and AEW. Some light jabs. I noticed MJF mentioned Triple H's name the other night, but it was in a playful way. Everyone would tune in for that first promo. Yeah. You would, I would.
Oh, absolutely.
But after that, it's like, okay, he probably burned some bridges with Triple H still from that speech, which was, people still talk about that promo.
Oh, yeah.
But, he could go to Impact, which would be big for Impact.
If he was to go anywhere, I would say he should go try and get the NWA title from EC3. Have Billy Corgan give him that 10 pounds of gold.
But it was certainly, like, you probably could. I'll be honest, I don't really follow Impact. That would be huge for him. But he'd be the biggest guy on their roster by far.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he'd be the biggest guy in NWA, too.
Yeah,
at this point.
So I would think his body's got to be pretty beaten up. I can't see him. I can't think of one match in WWE. I mean, I'd certainly love to see him against LA Knight and Austin Theory, but is he going to do house shows and travel and?
No.
That's so. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where he lands. He doesn't need the money. He does get. I think he was on the Mayans. I noticed. A couple times. Not that pays a tremendous amount, but and now that shows. By the way, that's a great. I will say this. Did you watch the Mayans?
I have not. No.
They killed off 3/4 of the cast in the finale, so you now know it's never coming back. So I love that they did that, but we'll see. I mean. He'd be a good heel commentator, maybe for NWA, or it'll be very. I have a feeling he'll do WWE for the one promo to rip into Tony Khan, and then they'll, depending on if him and Triple H get along, maybe they'll give him some. I don't think they're going to give him a title run, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? We'll see. If it were up to me, I'd leave him at home. But that's.
But what would you do? Like,
mine.
Let's say you're his agent and you get offers from every company, maybe even overtures from AEW. Where would you want to see him end up? NWA.
NWA. I think NWA having him carry that belt will do favors for him. It'll do favors for the company. They're an older company that still garners a lot of respect. They're not obviously production-wise anywhere near even Impact. Impact has a better show than NWA right now. But I think that would be good for both him and the company if he were to go over there.
Well, yeah, I mean, or maybe New Japan, like have some laughs over there. Like,
I mean, I don't know if he can hang with those people over there. He's been very botchy lately, but we'll see.
But if Vince McMahon ran AEW at London, it would have been Punk and Omega.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's. I mean, there's still some matches for him in AEW. Like if you look at, and it's wrestling. Everyone comes back. Can you? Of course, most of my references are older, but like, if you would have said the Ultimate Warrior would ever be in the WWE Hall of Fame, you'd be like, they put out a 3-part DVD shitting on this guy. Like, it was really unbelievable. It's unparalleled that they would put out a 3-part DVD just hammering what a-hole this guy was. He came back. Never say never, but you now have at least Punk Omega, Punk Perry. I don't know if there's tremendous interest in Punk Page, but it would be a good match. I've always wanted them to bring in Cabana, although that might be too inside baseball for casual fans. Like, I don't get the feud. So, I mean, you got to give him this. I know you hate the guy. He does make it interesting. Like, and that's the perfect guy to have. Like, you're going to watch to have him get his ass kicked. I don't really care if he wins or loses, but I'm going to watch because he does drum up business.
Yeah. Well, we're not talking WWE, but the big news was that the merger finally closed. I went ahead and bought some stock because there's no way that UFC and WWE are going to go down from here.
I don't know about that.
I don't know, man. I don't foresee any. I only foresee it going up. Whether it's a quality product that you and I enjoy, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about they're going to make money. That's what they do best. They do big things to make more money altogether. And financially, I'd like to invest in that because I know that if I start at the ground level, it's only going to go up from there financially. Quality, subjective. Whether or not I'm going to like what happens, I don't know. But just financially. But now that is finalized, things are going to start changing again, and that might open the doors for Punk coming back. Endeavor might just be like, hey, fuck you, Triple H. It's happening,
I mean, it's tough. Like, I'm a big UFC guy, and when they were bought out by William Morris, a great job by the Fertittas and Dana White for selling when they sold, because they sold at the top of Rousey being a star, Cain Velasquez, was one of the top guys, and he had the Hispanic market. John Jones was at the top of his run. McGregor was at he was everywhere. And now, Velasquez is in prison.
He got out.
Are you sure on that?
I think so.
I don't think he's out.
You don't think he's out yet?
I'm almost positive he's still.
I thought he got out.
When you're accused of murder, I don't think, unless Johnny Cochran's his defense attorney.
Yeah, but wasn't it in like Mexico? The rules are different.
I don't believe he's out. I could be wrong, but even if he is out, he'll never be in the UFC cage again.
No.
So there, and then McGregor, that guy,
Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, sorry. That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, you could just do it like Joey Diaz, just call him something else completely.
Well, that's what I did when I was my high school baseball announcer. I can't read this shit. But when Nurmagomedov killed Khabib, I'll just say Khabib. It's a lot easier. When he killed McGregor, it ruined McGregor's luster. Oh, you're not that tough. This kid could beat you in his sleep. And then Rousey lost her last 2 MMA fights in devastating fashion. Like, they sold right before all those losses. Yeah. So I think with, although WWE has some stars that are rising, Theory and, Rhea is, like, amazing. I don't know if long-term in 10 years they're going to have the stars. William Morris or Endeavor, they think long-term.
Yeah.
And, you can bet that Dana White and the Fertitta brothers are like, hey, after these guys start losing, and Rousey, we don't have a lot of stars. So I don't know if WWE has a lot of long-term stars. I do love Dominic Rhea, but, like, that's why I think that I don't know if you bought – I don't know if there's a lot of room for them to grow in terms of stars. Now, there certainly may be some guys in the independent or girls that are comers. MJF, who was MJF 4 years ago?
Yeah.
or maybe they get MJF to, his.
Exactly. There's a lot that can happen. I don't know. I only put a couple $100 in it. I'm not like losing my house over it.
I'm Jewish. $100 is $100. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, it's exciting because that'll force AEW. The streaming stuff is going to be much more prevalent now, and maybe that'll force AEW to be, hey, we gotta, Tony Khan calls his brother or his dad. Who owns the Jaguars? His brother or his
father,
dad?
His dad.
Hey, Dad. How are you with high Wi-Fi wires? So it's good for us.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we got some upcoming stuff for AEW. We're not going to deep dive in any of this, but Dynamite's it's today. Tonight, Samoa Joe versus Earl Skakel. Roddy Strong.
You know how many people have sent me pictures of Roderick Strong? Because my glasses are a little wonky right now. These are $600 frames. I'm just too cheap to buy a new pair right now. But this is the Roderick Strong look right now.
Yeah, you got to get a neck brace, dude.
I know.
You got a neck brace.
That's my Halloween costume, Roderick Strong. 2 people will get it.
The winner will face MJF. Big Bill getting a title shot. Our buddy getting a Mox. He's not going to win, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Bill. Love you, buddy, but Mox is not dropping it in his first defense. It's just not happening.
But this is great, though.
But it's a good rub for him.
When he did our podcast, he was barely used.
Yeah. Now he's getting a solo title shot.
It's good exposure for him, and he's a great. They kind of have him paired with Ricky Starks now.
Yeah, I think Ricky was his manager or something.
Like his enforcer.
I don't know what's going on.
Whatnot.
There.
So good for Big Bill, who's once again the nicest fucking guy you could . He barely fit in my Jeep, and he bought me gummy bears at the 7-Eleven on Cahuenga and Sunset.
Nice.
The guy working the counter was like, we walked in, and he's a sight. I'm a pretty big guy. He's a foot taller than me. It's the guy thought we were robbing the place.
Oh, man. Also, Dynamite Grand Slam on September 20th. You got Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Saraya versus the winner of some tournament that they're having with the women. 4 women are going to fight, and then they're going to fight Saraya. MJF will be facing whoever wins between Samoa Joe and Roddy, which story-wise, I think it's going to be Roddy. And I think Roddy will beat Samoa Joe via interference from the Kingdom or whatever. But story-wise, it would make sense to have Roddy versus fucking MJF. It makes sense. Don Callis will reveal his next target with Takeshita via painting. I love this idea, by the way. Just having these elaborate paintings coming.
I will say, Don Callis, I think you remember about a year ago I said I just don't like him. He's not doing it for me. He is definitely back in my good graces. He's a great heel manager, and the way he attacks people, and it's the little things that I think make a great heel manager. In his diamond penny loafers, it's just fun. No socks. It's really, he's good for Takeshita for sure.
Yeah.
But I hope that the New York card is the start for the November pay-per-view in LA. It's a big pay-per-view LA.
Oh yeah.
They're promoting it already pretty good. So you got to have some good cards or some good matches on the card. And I think LA, a lot of celebrities will be in the crowd. I really hope that they take some time and build. You've got, what is it, November 24th? So that's
18th, November 18th.
So almost 2 months from tonight to start the process. So I'm looking forward to the next couple Dynamites and Collisions and see what happens.
For sure. Also on that Grand Slam, we got Eddie Kingston versus Claudio Castagnoli for both the ROH World title and the New Japan Strong title. That's going to be interesting because whoever wins that is huge. If Claudio wins, that means he's going to go to New Japan, which is huge. And then if Eddy wins and becomes Ring of Honor World Champ, that's huge for Eddy because, a few years back I had some friends tell me Eddy's a world champion, and I was like, there's no way Eddy will ever be world champion. I love the guy, but I don't see it happening. Either way, that's a match I'm tuning into just because the repercussions are huge. And then October 1st, they're doing Wrestle Dream, which I don't like the name, but they announced Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr., my homie. That is huge. That's a dream match for a lot of people, not just Bryan Danielson. I spoke earlier with about. I don't know if I spoke earlier about this, but Bryan Danielson mentioned that this might be his last year because he wanted to quit wrestling full time once his daughter turned 7. So this is him. This is going to be his dream year where he's just going to face off the people he really wants to face. But yeah, I think Bryan Danielson, Zack Sabre is going to be a pro wrestling fans like, I could watch. They could wrestle for 3 hours on that pay-per-view, just them, and I would watch. So, what other dream matches do you think you would want to see on that Wrestle Dream card?
Well, I mean, definitely Ospreay against anybody.
That would be a good spot for the Omega, the trilogy.
See, I think they botched it. Like, I don't know. I mean, I could watch them wrestle 100 times, but I just think the way I would have done it with Omega winning at Forbidden Door and then losing in London was that would have been a good, like, you get everything you want. You get a great match. Ospreay goes over. But, I don't know if I would do it there. It just, although you could say it's the rubber match, winner is the best. I mean, Ospreay against, Sammy Guevara, I think people forget how good he is. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't, you're running out of time for like a build-up. I mean, Omega, I think if you're going to have Wrestling Dream, you got to have him in a proper, I don't know, maybe a rematch with Takeshita and he wins. Maybe Takeshita and Ospreay. That'd be a great...
No, but they're both Callous guys, unless one of them turns.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Jay White, I think. Maybe Jay White and Omega.
Jay White Omega would be big, I think.
Jay White Ospreay.
I'd like to see that.
Maybe... you got to figure at one point the guns will turn on each other. Like, that'd be cool to see Austin against Colton. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a Wardlow return.
Goldberg.
I mean, it's... I would hold off on a Goldberg, because that's not a pay-per-view, right? It's just a big card.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a pay-per-view.
Oh, it is a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's a pay-per-view.
Okay. I mean, you might. I mean, that could get a few extra buys. Selfishly, I'm going to go to the November card, so I'd like to see his debut there. And I just thought of this. MJF is really proud of his Jewishness, or whatever you would call it, his heritage.
His Jewishness.
Maybe, and it'd be a fun match. Maybe him against Goldberg.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Obviously, who's going to win.
Right.
But, that would be funny. Maybe the two most highest profile Jewish wrestlers ever.
Yeah.
So can you imagine the promos or the signing that MJF comes out, not a menorah, but a yarmulke, and like it'd be funny. Like Goldberg would probably have fun with it. So, who would you want to see?
No, I agree with a lot of what you mentioned. I think it would be cool to see a Goldberg like that, a Goldberg situation. I'd like to see some more New Japan talent. I mean, at risk of making it another Forbidden Door, but I'd like to see, more Okada appearance, like a match with Okada, and like maybe I don't know if I would run back Omega Okada, but that'd be kind of cool. But just some more New Japan talent I would like to see on the card as well. And that's October 1st, and then November 18th we got the Full Gear at the Forum, which they've already announced in attendance is going to be FTR, Omega, Chris Statlander, Orange Cassidy, Samoa Joe, Strickland, Saraya, Jericho, Adam Cole, MJF, and the Bucks. So all their top players, they're bringing everybody for this pay-per-view. I think it's funny that they're promoting the stars that are going to be there and none of the actual matches. So that just goes to show, like, they're trying to make sure people know all of your favorites are going to be there. We'll be there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe Mercedes Moné.
Yeah, that's a Wrestle Dream match. If she's healed up by then, that would be a good Wrestle Dream card
her
match.
Against Jade. I mean, Jade came back.
Jade came back.
And looked amazing. I mean, she is like, she's a weird combo of, like, she's really pretty, but she has a dude's body. Like,
yeah, she's jacked.
Like, she is like, wow. So, and then, Taya Valkyrie, I'd love to see her in the mix.
She needs to stop losing. Tony Khan, stop making our girl Taya lose. Good Lord, man.
I mean, I do.
She's so good and just losing every time. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of burying her. Like, I will say this in XPW, as crazy as they are, they built her up. Like, they made her into this ass kicker. They obviously they're pretty low budget, but like when Taya came in, like, it was a big deal, and she won she was the first XPW Women's Champion, and they really built her up. So I do wish that she got a little bit better of a push. I understand her match with Britt Baker didn't. I think there were some possible mixed reviews of that match. I'd like to see them go again. But we'll see. I mean, it's Tony Khan. You never know what's happening.
That's true. Well, as we just said, there's a lot of AEW shit coming, a lot of pay-per-views, so no lack of information and news to discuss with my buddy Earl here. So like I said, he may not be a weekly staple, but he will be here often, hopefully, if he gets up early enough to.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that, and I'm also, I can't announce the date yet, but the special is coming sooner than later.
Nice.
So I have to really devote all my time,
For sure.
It's only an hour special, but, it's 23 years going into this fucking special, so I have to, but I'll always have time to talk AEW.
Fuck yeah, man. Well, let the people know where they can follow you.
It's pretty simple. Earl Skakel. That's 2 Ks. Skakel everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, where I have 14 subscribers. Out of control, you guys. Everyone says, "Oh, we love you." Every time I get brought up at the comedy store, this guy's a comedy legend, LA-wise, not worldwide. And I got 14 Patreon subscribers. I don't need the money, but it just looks bad.
You can hide that number, by the way.
I don't want to, though. I'm CM Punk. I'm a 1%er. I'm just saying, this is why the Comedy Store podcast failed, because you guys all say, "Oh my God, this is our buddy Greek Fire on Twitter. I really miss no one retweets this shit. No one shares it. Oh, this is a great podcast. We'll see you next week." Well, maybe you won't if you don't share it.
That's true.
It's free to hit share.
Yeah. Follow us here, this show, Outside Interference Show, at Instagram. You can follow me at RRBG Podcast. Yeah. Spread the word. Let them know. The show is still going. We're a brand new show, new house here at Knucklehead in Hollywood, and we're going to keep it going. Interviews, news, live events. September, I don't know when this is going to come out, but hopefully in time. But September 20th, I'm doing a comedy show here at Knucklehead. A bunch of people from the Comedy Store. September 16th, there's a metal night here we're doing with Josh Barnett. We're just doing a whole bunch of shit. Circle 6 has been great to us, so we want to shout them out, and we're going to keep this train running. So please follow, share, and all the things.
And it's my birthday, September 17th, and you know me. I love free shit. So
send them some stuff.
Send me something like Comedy Store, 8433 Sunset, West Hollywood, 90069. Send Daddy a wrestling doll. I like wrestling dolls. I do a lot of free work for you momos out there.
Get him a subscription to Dewdrop's OnlyFans or something.
Does she have an OnlyFans?
I don't know.
I'll pay for that shit. But it's time you guys give back. I've been 23 years in the fucking jungle. Daddy wants some stuff back.
All right, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Woo. Is it hot in here or is it man?
It's hot in here. If we turn the AC on,
No, it costs money. That costs money.
Make sure Doc is